Smash the like button if you believe that deep down inside that The Rock really doesn't care about the day-to-day operations in the WWE, and he only really cares about his bank account.
All right, so there's a lot of misinformation about Rocky Maivaia's status in the World Wrestling Federation. People think that Rocky Maivia and Paul Levesque have a beef, to a point where you idiots think that Rocky Maivia wants to fire Paul Levesque. First off, he doesn't have that kind of power to fire Paul Levesque. So please, shut the hell up. He doesn't have that kind of power. He's on the board, but he's not a boss of the company. He's more so an investor. That's what he is. Let me tell you facts about what it means to be on a board and having power on the board. Rocky doesn't have that kind of power on a board to fire Paul Levesque. Paul Levesque has a job for life. Now, let's say Paul Levesque gets fired. You idiots, who's going to replace him? It's called being a booker, meaning you need to be a former fake pro wrestler to qualify to have that job. But there's not a lot of wrestlers who want that job. That's a fun fact that nobody tells you. Not a lot of fake ex-pro wrestlers want that job. You either have to be Paul Heyman or Bruce Pritchard. But most importantly, you need to have experience in the business, or you need to be an ex-fake pro wrestler. So who's going to replace Paul Levesque? If, hypothetically, Rocky Maivia fires Paul Levesque, even though that would never happen. Who? Road Dogg? The same Road Dogg who you don't like? Who's going to replace him as the top booker? You jackass? Bro, who? Shawn Michaels? Oh, right. So, by your logic, Rocky Maivia is going to suggest that Paul Levesque gets fired so he can bring in Shawn Michaels, the same Shawn Michaels who Rocky Maivia hates. He hates Shawn Michaels, hence why those two men never had a match. Yes, fun fact, Shawn Michaels never wrestled Rocky Maivia, and that's shocking because Rocky Maivia hates Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels books NXT. So if Rocky Maivia fires Paul Levesque, you mean to tell me that Rocky Maivia will suggest Shawn Michaels to take that job? The same Shawn Michaels who Rocky Maivia hates. In fact, I made a viral video about their beef. That video currently has over 700,000 views, which means people co-signed what I said. I said facts in that video. Rocky Maivia almost fought Shawn Michaels backstage a long time ago. So who's going to replace Shawn Michaels? Who's going to replace Paul Levesque? Because if you fire Paul Levesque, hell, most likely Shawn Michaels might quit. Let me say that again, you fucking marks. If Paul Levesque gets fired, thanks to Rocky Maivia, guess what, bitch? Shawn Michaels will quit. Because the only reason Shawn Michaels has his current job is because of Paul Levesque. Paul Levesque gave him that job. He gave him his job back in NXT UK. So please, watch your fucking mouth. At the end of the motherfucking day, Paul Levesque has a job for life. Because the TKO group, they want a McMahon in charge. Now, second of all, Rocky Maivia, he gives two shits about how the World Wrestling Federation is run. He don't care. If he cared, why didn't Rocky Maivia show up for WrestleMania this year? Why? Why did Rocky Maivia bail out on the John heel turn? If you think he really cares about this business, bro, he never shows up. The fact that this jackass did not show up to WrestleMania to celebrate with heel John Cena, what does that tell you? You think he cares about how Paul Levesque runs the business? What? The only person Rocky Maivia cares about is Rocky Maivia. That's facts. Bro, He only cares about his side ventures. He only cares about his business. He only cares about movies, his side projects. He doesn't care about how the World Wrestling Federation is run. He's only on the board as a money grab. He's only on the board because he's Rocky Maivia. It looks great on paper that Rocky Maivia is on the board. He's called the face. That's what it is. They brought him on the board because he's Rocky Maivia. It looks good on paper from a PR perspective. Hell, we got Rocky Maivia on the board. That's it. He's a board member in name only. He has no responsibilities, you jackasses. He doesn't have the power to fire Paul Levesque. Look it up. He doesn't have that kind of power. Google it. He don't. In order for Rocky Maivia to help fire Paul Levesque, it needs to be a yay or a nay voting system. The board has to vote on that shit. All the members on the board, they have to agree. Not 2, not 5, not 4. Every member on the board has to agree. Not just one. Okay, let's say Rocky Maivia wants to fire Paul Levesque. Guess what, bitch? TKO can say no. That's how that works. He doesn't have that kind of power in the company. He doesn't own that many shares of the company to fire Paul Levesque. That takes a voting system to fire Paul Levesque. Ever heard of all in favor? Say aye. All opposed? Say no. That's how Paul Levesque can get fired. Every member on the board has to agree, or at least the majority of the board members have to agree to fire Paul Levesque. Just like how they had to agree to force Vince McMahon to step down. But you have to have a McMahon to run the business. That's why Stephanie McMahon was chosen to run the business, because of her last name, Paul Levesque. He is a member of the McMahon family. He's a friend of Donald Trump. He will never be fired. That's never going to happen. So shut the fuck up. He's not going anywhere. He has a job for life. But in order to be a booker for this company, you have to be a friend of the McMahon family, or you have to have some kind of connection to the McMahon family, like a Shawn Michaels, like a Paul Levesque, guys like that. Also, you have to have a wrestling background. You have to be an ex-fake pro wrestler, like a Road Dogg, guys like that, or a Jason Jordan. But you have nobody in mind to replace Paul Levesque. That's what I don't get, right? It's like, okay, let's say you dump a female, but your dumbass have no other backups. That's like you want to quit a job and you have nothing lined up. So why would you say you want Paul Levesque fired when you have nobody else on your mind to replace him? Because if Paul Levesque gets fired, Shawn Michaels, he's gone. He will leave right along with him. You jackasses, these are facts. Those guys are like brothers. Those two men are close. You think Shawn Michaels is going to want to stick around if his best friend got fired by Rocky Maivia? You people don't think. Paul Levesque has a job for life, and my sources have told me that TKO are very happy with the job that Paul Levesque has been doing for the past 3 years. He's not going anywhere. So please, calm the fuck down. I understand you don't like how Paul Levesque books shows, but you gotta fucking suck it up. He's not going anywhere, and you have nobody in mind to replace him. That's the point. Who's going to replace him? Who? Paul Heyman? Who? Bruce? Who? Road Dogg? Who? Shawn Michaels? You cannot think of one soul who can replace Paul Levesque as the booker. So guess what, bitch? We're stuck. We're stuck until Paul Levesque retires from booking. He will be like Vince McMahon. He's going to book for a very, very long time. He's not going anywhere. First off, Rocky Maivia, he's focusing on the smashing machine. Okay? He's focusing on movies. You think he cares about the World Wrestling Federation? He only cares about himself. He only cares about his booking. He doesn't care about anybody else on this roster. Like, who do you think this guy is? He's Rocky Maivia. He's lazy. This man had some nerve not to show up for WrestleMania. Bro, we have to beg Rocky Maivia to show up. And you think he pays any kind of attention to how Paul Levesque books the roster? I'll be shocked if Rocky Maivia even watches the fucking show on a weekly basis. Hell, he probably watches NXT for his daughter, but overall, I doubt he watches the product every week. I doubt that. First off, Paul Levesque and Nick Khan are very close. Also, don't get it twisted. Nick Khan, he got Rocky Maivia that spot on the board. Nick Khan has more power than Rocky Maivia. So do the math. Rocky has no power over Paul Levesque when it comes to trying to fire him. That's never going to happen. Okay, let's say Rocky Maivia was trying to fire Paul Levesque. Bro, that shit would have been done already. Why is Paul Levesque still there? If Rocky Maivia does not like this guy for that job, why is Paul Levesque still there? If Rocky wanted to fire him, that would have been done last year. So what has changed? Nothing. Rocky does not care about this business. He cares about movies and his side projects, like his drinks, his investments. The World Wrestling Federation is nothing more than an investment to his bottom line, but he doesn't care about the day-to-day operations. Rocky Maivia is on record by saying Paul Levesque is doing a great job as the booker. So what evidence do you have that Rocky wants to fire Paul Levesque? You have none. You have a Mark perspective. You have a Mark opinion. These are facts that I'm telling you. Rocky has no power on the board to fire Paul Levesque. Okay, how about this? When Paul Levesque was in his prime, I heard stories that Paul Levesque was in booking meetings. He was the only fake pro wrestler in those meetings. He was the only wrestler who had interest on becoming a booker. Not Kurt Angle, not Rob Van Dam, not Stone Cold, not Taker, not Kane. He was the only guy on the roster who had an interest on becoming a booker. So Paul Levesque was born for this job.